Bye. I'm delaying until I find the button to push to turn on the outro. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
All right, I know we missed a week. I know we're begging for subs, and then we went and missed a week, but roll with us here. Invincible Season 2, Episodes 6 and 7 we're talking about today since we missed episode 6. A lot has happened in 2 episodes, Sol.
All the things.
Why don't you start us off with where did we because you're gonna have to remind me a little bit. Where did you pick up with episode 6 when we first got here?
Splode getting shot in the head.
Yeah, didn't need that in my life at all. Ooh, that was stressful.
That was stressful. And one thing that I learned about head wounds because of the internet, because people have survived being shot in the head before. Yeah. That if you are shot in that close of a range and the bullet goes through your head, that's actually better for you and higher chance of survival. Because if you're shot from a long range and the bullet gets in your head and scrambles around, that's what kills you.
I have learned more about head and brain injuries in the last couple of years than I ever really wanted to know.
Right.
From television shows, no less. I still remember when 911 put a piece of rebar through a guy's head, and then he was back the next day fighting fires. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. But
lobotomy,
I guess, yeah. I understand there's science behind it, but it does feel like the show is playing a little fast and loose with some of that. But this is a comic book show about superheroes and superpowers, so I'm going to let a few things go. But
apparently, that's exactly what happens in the comics too.
I'm sure. I just as a relatively unintelligent man, I am having a hard time swallowing the idea that you can be shot in the head at point blank range and live.
It's happened in history.
Not just live, but by all accounts, other than being a little bit less of a dick, Rex seems fine. And I think
beats a guy with his stump of a hand.
I think that's the part I'm having a hard time swallowing. It's I get that he survived. It's the fact that he's fine.
Right.
I'm having a hard time with. It's not the fact that he's alive. I can come to grips with that. It's the fact that he's, okay.
But I'm so happy.
Inconvenience.
I'm so happy because I was like, oh, Rex is becoming a better person. You saw him in the room with Adam Eve, and I was like, oh, he's gonna die now, isn't he? Just the second he becomes a better person, he's so dead. And then now, just seeing him throughout these 2 episodes, I'm like, is he becoming one of my favorite characters, along with Alan the alien? But low-key becoming one of my favorite characters.
Well, Rex was always going to be one of my favorite characters for no other reason that he was voiced by Jason Mantzoukas. I mean, that's cheating. I don't care how terrible of a person you are. You put Mantzoukas in the seat and I'm on board. But it is great that they are, and again, don't know the comics, except for one thing that we'll talk about later. But it is curious to me that this is I don't know how accurate. I've heard some rumblings that this is not exactly how they did Rex in the comics. So giving Mantzoukas a chance to, because we all know him for being Pimento on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We all know him for stuff like this. We all know him for Jay on Big Mouth. Giving Mantzoukas a chance to flex a little bit from an acting standpoint, from a voice acting standpoint, is something I'm very much here for. And so I am, because that was my biggest, when I thought they were going to kill off Rex, my fear wasn't, oh no, they're going to kill off Rex. My fear was, oh no, less Mantzoukas in my life. I'm not okay with that. So, I'm really glad he's still here. And his odd survival aside, he's not the only one having an odd survival, because over the course of Shrinking Ray. Well, that one I do know in the comics she did not survive.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. So that's going to be interesting how she gets incorporated with the Guardians going on, because from this moment on, that will be the writing of the people of the show and not the writing of the comics. So that's always dangerous territory when you go into areas that don't already have the source. But it's gonna be interesting. Duplicate is apparently dead, unless my theory is correct, and we just don't know yet because I had the theory of maybe like there was a Kate number 10 or something.
Yeah.
The way
would,
that Immortal's acting,
yeah,
I think she might be dead.
I think she's dead, and I think he's going to go to the Maulers because we haven't seen them at all in the second half of season 2. They have not been here once since we got back from the break. So, and Invincible, Immortal knows all too well how good the Maulers are, because remember, the Maulers helped bring in the Immortal back to life in season 1 when Omni-Man was attacking. They brought him back, and then he went and tried to fight Omni-Man and then got killed again. So like he's got a previous relationship to some extent with the Maulers. Yeah. I would not be shocked if the final post-credit scene of this season is him bringing one of Kate's bodies to the Maulers.
Yeah, there were multiple body bags.
So many bodies. And they just let that man just sit in there with all of them.
Yeah, cool. Immortal is having a rough time, not going well.
No. And for a guy who's been alive that long, and remember, like, they have made the conscious choice to make the Immortal not just some other immortal guy. He's Abraham Lincoln. Like, this man has been people in history. This dude had lived lives. And we've known that's been hinted at all throughout since season 1. That like when Kate even said, like, yeah, he's the only person who's died as many times as I have. And it's like, that is a lot to digest.
Loki, can Immortal just be president in the real world? It'd probably be better than what our two decisions that we have.
I don't know. He seems to be more unhinged than the rest of them. Honestly, he's not okay. So I'll be curious to see what is next for him. I do know that there's been a lot of deviations from the comics up to this point. Especially when you have Robert Kirkman working on the show, so he's able to go in and be like, with writers, a lot of times you think like, I like this when I published the book, but now that I'm looking at it, we could have done that better. So you get, because we know, just from what I'm talking to people who have read them, like I know that the team wasn't supposed to show up as early as they were in season 1, with that fight with the aliens that age super fast. Like, they weren't a part of that fight. It was pretty much just Omni-Man. So they are already not strangers to changing things from the comics, and having Kirkman himself there facilitating the changes, I think makes it easier for folks to digest that, and all the fact that like any changes they have made have ruled. So
and the other thing is, at the same time and Fast and Furious is just happening.
Lord,
outside.
You're popular today.
Family.
Your family.
But at the same time of Rex beating the guy with his stump.
Woof.
Woof.
That was evocative. I was like, is he punching it with it? Oh, no.
We have the Sequids and the main like roster of the Guardians plus Mark and Kate fighting off the Sequids, and
Eve, not Kate.
Kate, sorry. Eve, yes, sorry. And the fact that went so quickly, and I was like, oh, are we done with the Sequids now? And then we have like the post-credit, mid-credit, whatever at the end, where I was like, oh, we're not done with the Sequids, and possibly with Eve and Ruddy, maybe they still have Sequids inside of them, which would be interesting.
That opens some possibilities. Now, obviously, the astronaut was with them for a considerable longer time, so it will make more sense. But it also, like, these are the Sequids who we don't know how much time they need. So Ruddy and Eve could very well still be like, it's like an alien situation. They could still have those chest burster eggs, in their belly waiting to hatch. Don't watch AVP Requiem, guys. It's triggering.
And she was talking to about like having to clean it out of her ears, the slime. So who knows? Well, I'm a little worried for them.
A little bit, yeah. So far we've been okay, but this is definitely the show of slow release ticking time bombs. So it ain't over yet. As far as episode 6 goes, I know that we had some great go back and forth between Eve and Rex. We know that Rex loves Home and Garden magazines, which is
so cute.
I couldn't tell if that was a byproduct of the bullet to the head or if he really is just like that. And I kind of love it either way.
I think she's just like that because Eve was told Mark, I think he likes these magazines because he didn't grow up in a home. So to be able to see a home on the magazines and like be able to picture it, I think so that makes it both completely charming and sad at the same time.
It does. And if we're gonna get more of, because even when she said like, oh, Rex never had a home, I had a moment watching the episode where I was like, oh, we really don't know anything about Rex. It kind of hit me in that moment of like, we don't know even the conversation he had with Eve in her bedroom where he was just like, I was this piece of shit high schooler that you for some reason thought was worth a damn. He
lived in her house too.
Lived there without her parents knowing. Like he was just kind of there. So I do wonder. I mean, obviously there's only one episode left this season, so we're not going to get a whole lot more. But I do wonder if we're in store for some Rex world building that I did not have on my bingo card, but I'm very much here for.
Or if we get like we got with Adam Eve, his own special.
You could do that between seasons. Make that your thing in between seasons. It's like, because then you can have it, because then you can do like you did with the Adam Eve special, where it's like, oh, and by the way, where was Mark during all this? He was being a duct tape superhero while his dad was plotting the downfall of humanity at the time.
I also found it funny too, going back to the Sequids, just the escape from the Martians. The music in the show, we've said it multiple times, is so great. Him, Captain Marveling through all of the spaceships was hilarious. I really enjoyed that scene.
And then we also had 2 sequences. We also, before we get into episode 7, the last thing I think we need to really tie off here is that Mark and Amber are headed for the skids in episode 6. We have the return of Mark Hamill. Hell yeah. As Mark goes and talks to Rosenbaum and or not Rosenbaum, Art, thank you. And we had Amber go talk to Eve. And
I love the way they did this.
This was such a great sequence. I loved this so much. It because also like this is probably the most relatable the show has been. Also is all the drama of Amber and Mark's relationship in season 2 and the struggle of going to college and making a high school relationship work, carry over, not even factoring in the superhero element. That is some of the most relatable shit I've ever seen. Like I'm watching season 2 of Invincible right now and all the college stuff. I'm like, aside from being a superhero, this is exactly what I went through my first year of college. Oh, this is hitting a little too close to home. I also love that we Saved by the Bell this shit and had Boy Meets World of this shit and had the principal carryover from the high school to college, and it's still Reginald Vell Johnson, which is never a bad thing. Mark and Amber aren't doing great, and finally everybody but Eve tells Amber and Art tells Mark, he's like, why are you here talking to me when you should be talking to them? Why are neither of you talking to each other? Which has kind of been a problem with most relationships in general, is people don't talk to each other, but in this one in particular, and we know that they changed the writing with Amber between seasons 1 and 2. Season 1, she was a lot more comic accurate and very much kind of a less than understanding person. Let's go with that. And season 2, they've really changed the way they've written Amber and Mark's relationship, where it's like they've been making me understand how these two ended up together in the first place, I think.
Yeah, I've always really liked Amber. Even in season 1, I've enjoyed her as a character. But I do think that she's written a lot better in season 2 than season 1. I like you said, it's so relatable to what they're going through, and the fact that what attracted her to him being a superhero, him being a good person and wanting to save people, is also the thing that is breaking them up, because the guilt of wanting to spend time with the person that you love, even though by doing that he's going to be off saving the world. So it's a very interesting dynamic of two people who seem to really love each other but just cannot be together. And I really enjoyed all the scenes, the way too that like they're just struggling to talk to each other anyways. Like they called it like a bad first date when they were getting coffee, which the coffee were broken hearts inside the mugs, which I was just like, okay, let us know that they're not gonna last, which we see in episode 7. And also the continuation of them struggling to talk to each other in episode 7 when they go to Comic-Con, which we'll get to that. But
they're 18. Find me 2 18-year-olds that know how to talk to people.
Right.
So we get into a situation then leading into episode 7, because I mean it's hard to talk about these two separately because they really do lead right into each other. They're very much a part 1 and part 2. We see Mark and Amber's relationship super disintegrate in this episode for a lot of different reasons, but the most notable of which is when you're that young, it's really hard to it's hard to be that young and having to discover for the first time that sometimes two people just don't work together. It's not because anyone did anything wrong. Both Mark and Amber, by all accounts, were doing everything right in this relationship. They were doing everything they were supposed to do. You know, anytime he wasn't superheroing, he was spending with her. He kept having stuff happen. They kept getting interrupted, which was not his fault. He would try to avoid it. Amber would say, no, you have to go. Like, it's not a question. And because of the kind of person Amber is, we know she's big in volunteering. She's very much a child of changing the world. She wasn't about to tell him, no, you can't go save people. And that is ultimately, though, what comes up in the break was where she's like, but not that it's anyone's fault, but that does take away her agency in the relationship, because it's like, cool, now I'm not allowed to get mad that I'm not seeing you.
Yeah. And another thing that she added beforehand was that one of the big problems in season 1 was that he would lie to her. But now she's the liar. She's lying on where Mark is and not. So she's becoming a person she doesn't like, because you saw how upset she was about dishonesty in season 1.
And it becomes a question of like, okay, well then what do? Do you release your secret identity to the public? Do you stop superheroing? Are you Amber and just learn to deal with it? I mean, there's not a right answer to this question, because there's also not a wrong answer to this question. There's sometimes, and it's the hardest lesson anyone has to learn in relationships, and I'd say 99% of people at this point have had to learn this lesson. If you haven't, you're just young, honestly, which is that sometimes two people's lifestyles just do not jive through no one's fault of their own. Sometimes you've just got a job and a hobby and a personal life that just does not allow for a lot of time for other people, no matter how much you might try or want it to. And the more serious your job is, if you're a superhero, if you're in the military, if you're a cop, if you're a doctor, like if you are in a people's lives demand on me job, you can't just not go to work that day.
Yeah. It is a hard place that these two people are in together, and you really do feel for them.
But it also does, and it also emphasizes something Mark's mom brings up, and I loved the conversation Mark had with his mom about this, where she was like, no, it's better you told her. Like, I know it doesn't feel like it, but it is better you told her. In the grand scheme of things, this could have been worse. At least you were honest with her. But also, like, it, and Eve has been saying it since day one. It's like being a superhero, dating in a relationship with a normal person is a recipe for disaster. You know, his mom says, she's like, I don't regret any of it, but you don't, because you were a kid, you don't fully grasp how hard it was raising you when your dad
was a single mom.
Yeah. She's like, he wasn't here for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
You didn't notice, you were a kid. You just thought, cool, my dad's Omni-Man. Like he wasn't here.
Yeah. Did it feel a little bit like Peter Parker and Mary Jane to you?
I don't know if it was Mary Jane so much as like Peter Parker and just insert girlfriend before Mary Jane here. Because Mary Jane's the one who's kind of been the ride or die.
Yeah.
Like, unlike, whereas Amber, by her own admission, doesn't have the constitution for being a superhero's girlfriend / romantic partner.
Yeah.
Mary Jane was cut from different cloth.
Yeah.
She was like if Mary Jane had superpowers, she'd be a supervillain. I fully believe, I love Mary Jane. I do fully believe that, don't clip that out. I do fully believe that if Mary Jane Watson had superpowers, because she's such a fucking firecracker, it would ultimately become her superhero origin. Because Mary Jane would get pissed off at the wrong person at the wrong time and would super break a neck.
One thing to go next to is Donald and Rick.
Donald, what was the friend's name? Not Donald.
The boyfriend, William. Yeah. Rick struggling with being an android. Makes sense. Donald struggling with being an android, and the fact that our theories of this is not his first time coming back to life turned out to be true.
What did I say? He said, a lot better than your old one, huh? And I looked straight at this camera and I said, that means two things. Yeah, he died.
39 things.
Say, this one's got cup holders. Wow. This guy, like I didn't put this together. Maybe I said this with season 1, but I didn't put this together with season 2. Was that Donald is very much a Phil Coulson analog in this show. I don't know how he is in the comics, but in the show, at least, he's very much a Coulson analog, to the point where it's like, yeah, in the Avengers, Coulson had to die a hero's sacrificing death to be the spark that got the Avengers going. And Donald has kind of been that 39 times, where he has always been the first one on the front lines, getting people to safety, charging into a situation with a giant tentacle monster, and he's walking in there with an AR-15 being like, fuck it, I gotta do what I gotta do, and just dying, being a hero, being a fucking hero, being the biggest hero in this show. His homie don't have superpowers, and he's got his memory erased, so he doesn't know he's an android. He just thinks he's just gonna die, and he doesn't care. And he has made the conscious decision to have his memory wiped every time. And Cecil says it. He's like, you understood. No one should have to carry that much trauma.
But do you trust Cecil? Because we didn't see a video of him saying, I want my memory wiped. See, we just heard Cecil say that.
Oh, I do. I actually do believe Cecil, because I believe 1,000% Donald would do that. I believe for a fact Donald would, because we saw Donald going through it. Of trying to deal with that trauma. So I 1,000% believe that one day, after one of his first deaths, Donald went to Cecil and said, get it out. I can't live like this anymore. Get this out or kill me. Like, get it out. And Cecil was like, your choice. Because it's very clear Cecil's like very much a get over it and get on with your life, or let me wipe your memory. Like I'm not here to, Cecil's not here to ride the struggle bus. He is here to deliver the most efficient and effective solution to a problem. That's why with Nolan's baby, with Oliver being there, he's like, put him in the alien daycare. It's no one's problem anymore. Let's just make this not a problem. Just get him over there and forget about it, and we can move on with our lives. Donald, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna bring you back to life, and we're gonna pretend like nothing happened, and we're just gonna be okay. Oh, you don't like that? Let's wipe your memory because you're in a lot of trouble, and this is messing up the feng shui of my house. This is not sparking joy. Hashtag Marie Kondo. So I believe that Donald's the one that requested it, but the same way that I believe he's also having a moment now where he's kind of like, because he now, similar to Rick, has someone who's experienced the same thing and can relate to it for the first time in his life. He's like, I'm not alone. I don't have to wipe my memory because I don't have to keep it all inside anymore.
I can go to therapy.
I can go to therapy, kids. That's the lesson of Invincible. Like Amber said, study and go to therapy.
With Cecil, and I know we've talked about him being very Nick Fury coded.
Yeah.
I believe him too, just on the record. But I was thinking, I was like, oh, we didn't see that. Are we going to find out that Cecil's lying? I hope not, because I'm believing him for right now.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Wouldn't be shocked
if it comes out next week. It's like, oh, he made up the whole thing. I'd be like, well, yeah, that tracks.
That tracks. But if it does end up being true, that shows a little bit of the caring that Cecil does care about Mark. Cecil does care about Donald. He has these moments that are kind of sweet in an awful way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me where we talk about the comparisons between like him and Nick Fury, where I think Nick Fury would have made the decision for Cecil, where for Donald, where Cecil let Donald make that decision for himself.
Yeah. Well, it takes me back to episode 6 or 5 when we didn't even mention the nanny. Before what's Mark's mom's name?
Debby.
When Debbie's looking for a nanny and she gets the one who fully admits to being, somebody picked up by Cecil, but she's like, but I'm going to tell you that because at the end of the day, I'm still a childcare provider. I love where she was like, you're not going to raise Oliver in some lab, and Cecil's like, we paint clouds on the ceiling. It's like, oh, Cecil, you genuinely think you're helping. Oh, you poor son of a bitch. You genuinely think you're being the good guy here. Oh, that's so adorable. Oh, that's so cute. You think that works. Oh, Cecil. Oh, buddy.
Also, the German lady was very funny in that whole nanny scene.
That whole nanny sequence is great. And I'm bummed we didn't get much more of it this week, but I also do not trust her at all. I do not trust the nanny one bit at all.
German nanny. I was just like, yeah, yes, Debbie, you are correct to get rid of her.
You are 1,000%. Yeah.
Also, speaking of Debbie, Debbie agrees to go on a date, which I was like, okay, get it, Debbie.
Yeah, I think you called that last time where you were like, I think the guy was hitting on her, and I didn't disagree. I was like, yeah, I could see that being true. Because Debbie's got to get back out there.
Yeah.
Debbie, you are still a fine ass bitch. Get out there and get some D. Come on.
Also, Cecil, can you fix that house in front? Please.
Seriously,
please.
Dude. Come on. Actually, now that you mentioned Cecil again, it actually reminded me of the conversation between Black Samson and Bulletproof, which, by the way, was 10 out of 10.
Good.
I loved when Bulletproof said about Cecil, he's like, yeah, he's a suit that would sacrifice any of us to save white middle America. And it's like, no, that describes Cecil in a perfectly condensed sentence.
Yeah.
But I also love the fact that he gave Black Samson shit for being bald. He's like, oh, I'm gonna feel left out for not being weird. You're bald, and that was Samson's whole thing. It's like,
he was like, I had hair when I chose the
yeah, but you don't now, and that's kind of the whole point. It's like, yeah, good point. But also, to be fair, Bulletproof, you're just not invincible. That's all you like. I don't know if anybody's caught this. The suit that Bulletproof is wearing was the first suit Mark tried on in season 1 at Art
and said nah.
And from everything we've seen, Bulletproof, even the name Bulletproof, is just not invincible. Like his power set seems to just be like Invincible ordered on wish.com. Like We haven't seen him do anything more than just
Low-key, that works so well because
does.
it arrives 4 to 5 months later. And he came late to the Guardians.
This is the greatest moment of my entire life. That is hysterical. I hadn't even thought of that. That's so funny. That scene was great. The other scene in this episode that was truly a fucking work of art was Mark at Comic-Con talking to the Seance Dog creator.
Oh, good.
The absolute, I don't even want to call it a fourth wall break, because to me that doesn't seem like a strong enough descriptor. Just the absolute fuck ton of meta commentary in one sequence.
We're gonna wait a while for season 3, folks.
We 1,000% are. Yeah, season 3 is it's gonna be a while. Well, especially because between the writer strikes, the actor strikes, and we keep hearing rumblers that animators and like post-production CGI, like the people who do like special effects and animation are considering unionizing. So and they did the same thing before season 2. Remember, they put out that little short between Mark and Alan at Burger Mart, being like, yeah, this shit takes a while. You guys want it to look this good every time? Be patient. And I don't think I've laughed quite that hard when they were doing the whole, like, you ever notice how like the person's mouth is off screen or it's behind their head? Or my favorite is
muffled, and he sound muffled.
My favorite is that you ever notice those big sweeping shots where, like, because it's so far away, you think it's animated, but then you look and realize nothing's actually happening. And then Mark's like, you know what? I'm going to check out season 2 a little more closely. And I'm like, fuck, now I got to go back and rewatch this, don't I? I got to go back and rewatch seasons 1 and 2, don't I? God. I mean, okay, fine. That's a great way to spend a weekend.
Going back to Bulletproof, because it shut up in my head, his description of Rudy and Amanda.
Oh yeah,
so spot on.
The guy, he cloned a body from one coworker so he could date another coworker that doesn't actually want to date him.
and then that she is gonna be a baby pretty soon.
She's about to be eating baby food in 3 weeks. Like, I don't know how they're gonna resolve Monster Girl.
I really don't either.
Again, haven't read the comics. I'm assuming she dies. I don't see a version of her story ending without her dying. I really and truly don't. Mostly because I don't trust the show. But
unless she decides to just stop, which she's not going to. But when she's a baby, when she becomes a baby, what would her transformations be like? Kind of like, does it come automatically, or if she's a baby and she doesn't have the mental capacity to transform, does she then stop that way because she's a baby?
I don't know, because we know it's a curse. All we know is it's a curse. From everything we've seen, we've never had a scene of her like, it's not like the Hulk where she loses control and the Hulk's just there. From everything we've seen, it's a conscious choice. So the only version of this I can see where she doesn't die is, it almost seems to me like her plan is to age herself to the point of infancy, to where she won't remember she has these powers. And then she can just, like, kind of like we talked about last time, then she can just grow up and have a normal life again.
Yeah.
Because if it's something she has to
go through puberty again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. But if turning into the monster is something she has to consciously do, if she can get herself young enough to where she's not going to have the object permanence to know about it, well, then she can just grow up and forgetting that she can do that, and then she never does it again. And then she just gets to live a normal life. So I can see a long game.
Or would she be a smart baby, a baby that can
Or would
talk?
she be? That's a great point. We don't really know, because she hasn't gotten young enough yet to where it seems to where we can tell whether or not she still has her mental capacities.
Because she's mentally still 25.
25. So I don't know. That's a good point, because right now she's supposed to be like 12-ish. body wise.
Shorter than Ruddy now.
Yeah, so she's
when they were the same height at the beginning of the season, and she's getting shorter.
Yeah, well, but again, a lot of that's also because Immortal just keeps putting her in the field.
To speak of that, Ruddy is the head of the Guardians again.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed in Immortal that when he was talking about why he was taking his lead and all these mistakes I've made, at no point did he mention and how hard I've pushed Monster Girl to where now she's going to be a baby. It's like, you still don't care about that. I really truly think no one other than Ruddy fully grasps just how dangerous to her powers are. I don't think anyone else fully gets it because it always seems to be a joke or an afterthought with everybody else. They just seem like it seems like Ruddy, and I think Ruddy is having a hard time communicating that because he doesn't know how. Because by all accounts, he's 5 months old.
He has not developed his social skills.
Because he wants to fix her, remember?
Yeah, he said that, and I was like, you do not say that to a girl you like.
I know what you meant, Ruddy. I really do. I know it's not your fault, but you dumb motherfucker.
And it's funny to think, like, I have to remind myself again, like, multiple times, like, he is 30 and she is 25. Yes, they look like they're 10, but
I have to keep reminding myself that they are probably the most appropriate relationship in the show. Because even Nolan and Debby, Nolan's like 500 years old or something like that.
Which Anissa, which we haven't gotten to, she's 1,000.
I don't want to talk about Anissa. It's too dark. We have to talk about it. I know, but it's too dark.
She almost killed Amber there, and
so I have to ask. I'm going to ask this now before we get into it, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but it isn't. Do you know Anissa's story in the? Okay, I just wanted to make sure you understood before we went any further. For those who don't know, I'm gonna play the algorithm a little bit here and use YouTube friendly terminology. In the comics, Anissa is obsessed with Invincible, and I will say, I've confirmed this with a buddy. This sequence happens in the comics, but it's much later, much later. Does not happen this early on in Invincible's career, and basically Anissa, after she puts him into a crater in the beach, has her way with him against his will. YouTube doesn't like that word.
Yeah, but I put a G girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also carries his child to term, and has a child with him in the comics.
Yes.
I doubt we're going that route because there are certain things you can get away with in a comic book that you just can't on a TV show. And Has Been Hotel pushed that line a little bit. They pushed that line just enough, but they had the power of a musical metaphor to get him through it. Unless this show decides to do a musical episode, don't see that happening. I have a feeling they're going to adjust how Anissa is portrayed a little bit. Because I don't see Amazon signing off on an animated depiction of sexual assault.
Because I haven't read the comic book, I don't know if that happens in this altercation or a future altercation, and we are spoiling.
I looked into it. So this altercation was supposed to happen in the comics, happens much later in Invincible's career. It doesn't happen when he's like a freshman in college. It's later, when he's like gained more, because she's basically, her thing is she's obsessed with Invincible. She's infatuated with him. So it's at a point where like his name is kind of known, and it becomes like this actually got a plot to an episode of Metalocalypse too, where she becomes obsessed with siring his child, because as far as Viltrumites go, that's like the greatest.
And that's one thing too. One of the reasons she won't kill him in this episode, like, you have to assume, is because there's so few Viltrumites that they need to repopulate. So I was like, is this going to happen later in the show?
Well, and remember General Craig I love that that's his name, General Craig. It was so obviously a General Zod analog. It's not even funny. He said at the end of part 1 of season 2, where he was like, you're taking up your dad's mission.
Yeah.
You're getting Earth ready for takeover. So yeah, her job wasn't to kill him. Her assignment from Craig was go check in and make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and make sure he understands, like,
she had some points.
She did. She like there's not a whole lot of things she said that were incorrect.
Yeah, greed is killing the planet.
She's like, you guys maybe have 200 years left, and it's like, yeah, no, that tracks.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we're doomed. Yeah, when she had him pinned down in that crater, when she like drops down on him, I thought, oh my god, they're about to do it. Oh, they're about to do it. Oh god. Oh no.
Well, to give a little behind the scenes, Mike hadn't watched the episode yet. I hadn't watched the episode because I was out of town, but Bogz had, and I was like, "Hey, Bogz, don't like tell me anything else about the episode, but tell me if something happened between these two." Because I saw the picture of her on that she was in this episode, and he was like, "Yeah, they fight." Yeah. It was like, "Yeah, they fight," and I go, "Just fight, nothing else." Nothing else happens, and he was like, "No, they just fight," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
It was this scene right here specifically where I thought she was about to do it, and I was like, "Oh, they're actually gonna," because again, Has Been Hotel on Amazon Prime towed the line of that subject matter with its first season, so clearly Amazon is willing to. Well, and it's also come up in The Boys, address the subject matter under very specific circumstances. And whereas Becca in The Boys happened off camera prior to the show starting in, stock footage of a security camera, and Has Been Hotel, with Angel Dust happened through a musical sequence metaphor. We were able, this is one of those, it's like, yeah, we don't have that option with either of these things. Like it's just going to happen if it does happen in the show. I don't know.
I think it's possible that it could happen later still.
I don't know. I don't know the context of it in the books as far as like obviously it's a fucked up thing that happens, but like what's everything going on around it, we're in a different, so as far as how it applies,
I don't know how important their son is or daughter.
I don't know.
I'm guessing son.
I think it's a son. I don't know exactly
how important he is to the story. So if he's an important character in the story, then this has
also as far as like worrying about spoiling things, if there's one thing I don't care about spoiling for people, is that the possibility that a character might get R-worded in this show.
Yeah.
Like
trigger warning.
Yeah, at this point, and I'm being 1,000% serious. At this point, going forward with Invincible, it's on the table. It's on the table. It is now, until she is removed from the board, it is on the table as a possibility. And I don't know how long Kirkman and everybody are willing to let everyone sit with that uncertainty, of thinking that there's always a sexual assault around the next corner when it comes to Mark and Anissa. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If we ever see a trigger warning before an episode, we know.
Yeah. Because that's what Has Been Hotel did. They put a big slate at the beginning of the episode that said, like, hey, this one deals with the following. Like, they didn't mince words. They were like, this shows a depiction of this thing happening. Be aware. Just be aware going in. Adjust your expectations accordingly. And I think Invincible in general is the kind of show that warning is almost implied. It's like, at this point, 2 seasons into Invincible, if you don't know there's a general trigger warning, that's kind of on you. But now that Anissa's joined the game again, I'm really curious to see how long they're gonna have this sword of Damocles just hanging over us. Like, it's like, yo, okay, like I get, like what are we doing with this? because that is for, especially again with it being this early in the run of the show as opposed to later like it is in the comics. It's like, well, now this is just out there for us to live with until it's resolved. And that's, if you're the person who knows that if you're someone who doesn't know, then it doesn't matter. Then you just think she's just some other Viltrumite. But at this point in the digital age, odds are if you've seen the episode, you probably know by now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about her being in the mix. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I honestly don't know how I feel about her being in the mix, because it creates such a big unknown, both from a plot standpoint and from a what is the show about to do standpoint. Like okay, where are we going with this? Because now I'm starting to get a little worried.
Yeah, and again, because you and I have not read it, we don't know how important of a plot point that is for the child that is reared from that. And it could very well that they change up what happens and it's consensual in the show. But I don't see Mark doing that. I don't see that happening. But you never know. Maybe Anissa decides to be a good person, and it happens that way.
Something else I do want to say too is because this is the penultimate episode for this season, and next week's episode is the last one of season 2, and probably for a while.
We'll get Angstrom Levy back.
Angstrom Levy's back, but also we know that there are several actors that were cast in undisclosed roles for this season that have yet to make an appearance. Like Gary Anthony Williams is supposed to be in this, Ella Purnell is supposed to be in this, Josh Keaton and Chloe Bennett is supposed to be in this season, and none of them have shown up yet. So I really and truly am not sure what is gonna happen next episode. Because with Angstrom being back too, he's been gone most of this season. Like he
has Mom and Oliver too.
Yeah, so I'm really curious how this is going to play out, because it's like, okay, he hasn't been here much this season. He's
kind of been Thanos, to where he's in the post-credit scenes.
Oh, not even Thanos. He's been Kanged. It's like, did y'all just kind of forget he was supposed to be here? Like, because for a while there, I thought maybe they were setting him up for like a season 3 villain. After he disappeared for so long this season, I was like, oh, he's just going to come back later. Oh, okay. But then they brought him back for episode 6, and now at the end of this episode, and I was like, oh, we're not done with him? Oh, well then what's he been doing all this time? Because we haven't really seen him. I guess so, yeah.
Because we see him in the post-credit with one of the alternate Marks, who is taken by female Cecil and Donald.
Yeah.
And then we see him with the tailor, who has 4 arms in an alternate universe. And then now we know that he is with Debby and Oliver. So who knows what we can infer that he's been going multiverse to multiverse to learn on how to defeat Invincible. And it'll be interesting to see what he has learned and what that will rear in this next episode.
Yeah, because I would assume, when episode 7 of season 1 aired, it ended with Mark saving Nolan from that weird Cthulhu beast that was about to kill him, but then also watching Omni-Man kill Immortal, which then sparked the fight between Omni-Man and Invincible. So I wonder what we're in for the next episode, because it's like, okay, what made Omni-Man and Invincible such a big deal was they were all but evenly matched from a power standpoint. So it was just watching two Superman analogs just beat the tar out of each other. That's not the case with Angstrom. He's a multi-dimensional traveler with a gun on his mom. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone who's read the comics are screaming at us right now, but we will see.
Also, we mentioned, I just noticed this in scrolling through the Wikipedia, and I mentioned this earlier about the similarities between Anissa situation and Becca Butcher from The Boys. Anissa is actually voiced by Chantel Van Santen, who played Becca Butcher in The Boys.
There you go.
So, interesting.
And then I think we need to, before we finish up here, is we got to talk about our favorite character, Alan the Alien.
Alan the Alien, greatest character ever. Hands
Him
down.
just on his phone, flying through space, completely doesn't notice the freaking Viltrumite ship. And then him fighting.
Oh, shit. Oh, God. Oh, no.
Him fighting with Anissa, him actually being able to make her bleed, showing how strong he's become.
Him putting in the work with Anissa.
And then him pretending that he's knocked out because if you remember him telling Mark about a prison that they don't know where it is, and that's probably where Omni-Man is. So he's about to be in prison with Omni-Man. And are we going to get a prison breakout between the two? This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Because the moment Anissa mentions the prison, Alan stops fighting.
Yeah.
Because at first he thinks, oh, she's here to kill me. I need to kill her and not die. And then she mentions the prison. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. You want to take me where now? Oh, no. Oh, darn. Oh, I'm unconscious. Ha 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 ha. Angry Birds. Like, yeah, I also love that Alan's new outfit is a polo shirt. He looks like a camp counselor.
A real buff camp counselor.
Camp counselor who thinks that Jesus is the Taylor Swift of this generation and is totally lit, yo. Like he's I love Alan so goddamn much, and I love that he gets punched in the face and his first thought is, oh no, my eye. Oh wait, it's fine. Okay, cool. Don't want to do that again. That wasn't pleasant.
I mean, he probably has some PTSD of seeing himself from outside of himself.
He literally said that to Optimus Prime of like, they punched my eye out of my head and I could see it. Like that's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are setting.
Did we see Optimus Prime again?
We didn't see him. Was that episode 5?
That was episode. Do we see him again in the next episode?
He'll be back. He'll be back. I don't know if it'll still be Peter Cullen. I hope it's still Peter Cullen doing the voice, but
because I don't know if we see him next episode. He'll for sure be in season 3, but I want to. Do we see him in the finale?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we're gonna see him. I think we're going to see Alan in the finale. I think the post-credit scene of the episode is either going to be Alan going to the prison and seeing Omni-Man, or it's going to be, what did I say earlier? Something with the Sequids. Maybe with Rudy and Eve and the Sequids.
Yeah.
That would be my 2 guesses as for what we're going to see as far as a post-credit for next week. Again, it all kind of depends on what they do with Angstrom, but
because we have 3 storylines going right now, and I feel like they've done a really good job pacing all 3. But what's going to be their big finale? Is it going to be the Sequids? Is Angstrom Levy going to be dealt with like at the very beginning, and the rest of the episode is the Sequids or the Viltrumites, or is Levy going to be the entire episode, and those are stuff that's being saved for season 3?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot that needs to happen next episode, but there's also a lot that can be. Again, the beauty of the show is they set themselves up in a wonderful way where it's like, yeah, there's a lot to wrap up, but we have the option of leaving it for later. It doesn't have to be wrapped up right now. So we'll see what happens, and I'll also be curious to see if they ever bring back Ezra Miller. We'll see. Anyway,
they haven't yet. They have it's a new voice actor voicing.
When did his character show up again in this?
Yeah, remember he calls when Anissa shows up. Cecil calls him to say,
I didn't notice it was a different voice actor.
Yeah, are there Rhiannon and Reddy? And he goes, no, it's a different voice actor.
Oh, I think my first thought when I saw him, I don't know who I thought that was. Honestly, it did not click to me that was D.A. Sinclair. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, well, cool. Listen, we had 2 episodes to cover today. I don't know if we've missed anything. If we have, it didn't matter.
Yell at us in the comments.
Yell at us in the comments, please do. We love the engagement. So one more episode left this season, and then God knows when we're getting season 3. I'm not putting any. It's one of the. I'm not even going to get excited for season 3. I don't care how good next episode is because I don't know when I'm getting it. So I'm not going to get excited because I don't know how long I have to wait to get that excitement fulfilled. But hey, let us know what you guys are thinking so far. Don't spoil anything that's going to come. I know we talked about the Anissa thing. I think that would, for me, that was more of a just giving everybody a heads up. This is now on the board. This is now a possibility. But yeah, don't anything else beyond that. Please, no spoilers. Yeah, let us know what you guys think down below. Are you excited? Have you been enjoying this season as much as we have? What are your predictions if you don't actually already know? Guys, please subscribe to the channel. I'm just going to sit here and stare at the camera until you do, if you haven't already. So,
hey, Steven, subscribe.
I can do this all day. I am so high. I can do this all day. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching us. We'll see you again next time here on Off the Wall.